Before we begin the episode, I would like to thank our sponsor, Chin Up Goggles, the new generation of vision training. Its simplistic design eliminates downward vision, improving a player's spatial awareness, anticipation, skill acquisition and execution. The findings have been supported by scientific research in CIT, now MTU. Be sure to visit chinupgoggles.com for more. Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On episode 78, I'm delighted to be joined by one of the legends of Irish basketball and the current Irish senior women's assistant coach, Jillian Hayes. On this episode, we discuss her career, coaching challenges and drawing on her own experience, coaching skills, accepting roles and so much more. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi Jillian, thanks a million for joining me on the podcast.
You're welcome, thanks for having me.
Before we get into everything, would you mind giving a 30-second elevator pitch to those who might not know who you are?
Who I am? I don't know who I am half the time myself. My name's Jillian Hayes and I played for Waterford Wildcats and the Irish senior women for years, and presently I'm coaching with my own club, Waterford Wildcats here in Waterford. Brilliant.
We're going to talk about all things coaching, but I do have to kind of recognise your career: 6 leagues, 3 cups, 4 top 4 championships, 4-time Irish Senior Player of the Year, twice Junior Player of the Year, Under-19 National Cup title. I'm running out of breath here. Skills, Senior A, League and Cup double, and you captained the Irish Senior Women's team, but you only started playing at 12. What do you attribute the success of your career to?
Well, back then there wasn't too many now you have players coming in at 4 and 5 into academies, but back then it was really when you went to secondary school you started playing, or maybe 6th class in school. So my next door neighbours would have played for Wildcats and I would have gone shooting around with them, and then once I got to secondary school I just got obsessed. So I only started at 12, then went on to play with the Irish under 15 team, 17 team and under 19 team. That's the way the age groups went back then. They've all changed now, but so just got obsessed with the game and loved it. So while it seems late to be starting nowadays, it wasn't back then.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. You were called up to the senior team, you were still a teenager. What's it like going into that environment and kind of looking back on it now and realising, was it a really big jump? What did you make of it?
Look, I was just so obsessed with basketball that if there was a match on anywhere or training on anywhere, I would have just got in the car and my dad would have brought me. So when I was invited to the senior women's team, Liam Hartigan was coaching it at the time. I was in 5th in school, and even from 6th when I was doing my leaving cert, I remember my mother kind of saying to me, "Oh my God, you're doing your leave," and I was like, "I don't care, I'll fit it in," and we did, because whatever hours you had free, you do your homework or your schoolwork, and the other hours were spent playing basketball. So yeah, it was probably a bit daunting, but I was probably fine, because I always had 1 or 2 of the Wildcats, the older girls, with me, and Michelle Maguire, Mary Fitzpatrick would have been on the Irish senior women. So I had teammates going with me, even though I was way younger than most of them there. But funny, because we were having this conversation, myself and Grania Dwyer there recently, because Kate, one of my daughters, turned up to the Irish senior women's team this year. And I remember when the age gap would have been 10 years. And Kate turned up to training the other day and Grania was asking her age, and it was like a 20-year age gap, so it's probably a bit daunting for the younger ones coming up. But I think with basketball, whether you're a senior player or junior player, everyone tries to make you feel welcome and settle you in, the one good thing about the sport.
Mm-hmm. I understand you had offers to go abroad to the States, and you turned those offers down. What was the kind of thinking behind maybe not going abroad and those opportunities at the time?
I was just a real homebird, a real homebird, and we were off playing. Wildcats had done a trip to America, and we were going around playing college basketball teams all over America, and so I was offered a few scholarships there, and when I came home, I had more scholarships invited. And then with the Irish senior women's team, we had gone another year. We used to go every second year to America, and again I was offered scholarships there. But yeah, just didn't like kind of the American kind of way and just loved home. So, and I was happy playing with my club and developing here. So I felt like I could keep playing at the top level here. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything going to America.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Did you have any pre-game routines as a player? I know you had a couple of superstitions, and aside from Eye of the Tiger, what would be your routine?
Now, I wouldn't be promoting my routines or my eating habits to most players, but always when we had home games, I would have been very much, I'd go for a nap every time before we go into the gym. So beforehand, I would try get good sleep, dinner into you, and go in and play. But like routine wise, our team would have had a specific warm up. But my one thing was the minute that the warm up was over, I was like, get me the ball under the basket. I just needed those few minutes myself with a ball in my own basket to put them in underneath, and always finish with a score before we'd go into, the start of the game. Just a ritual you had, or a thing to settle you, and put the ball in the basket and off we go.
Yeah, exactly. I put up the question box yesterday on Instagram. I feel now might have been a gag, but someone asked, "What were your meals like before games and training?"
That's obviously someone who played with me, because like I coach the younger kids now, or involved with the senior women, and it's all about nutrition and strength and conditioning. But I would have personally been in McDonald's 5 minutes before a game, like, and I could eat McDonald's and then go out and play. So definitely wouldn't be encouraging anyone to follow my eating habits. I'm a really fussy eater, and not a good role model for anybody to be following my eating habits.
Yeah. Talk us through some of your playing days. I suppose Michelle Fahey, Michelle Aspel, Suzanne Maguire, Susan Moran as teammates. Tell us about those experiences and what it's like kind of back then. I suppose for the younger generation that don't really realise what of a team that was, and even the players I've just mentioned.
Yeah, like look, we'd a super we had good few years like where basketball was really, really strong in the country, and we, came up with I got the chance to play with an awful lot of good players. Like when I would have been starting off playing, a lot of the girls that were 10 and 15 years older than me, like, were at the height of their career. But I suppose, look, of that couple that you've named there, like Suzanne and myself are around the same age. Suzanne won't like admitting that, but she's around my age. She likes to think she's a lot younger. But like I would have played with her an awful lot with senior women. And Suzanne's competitive nature would always, the two of us always got on really, really well. An awful lot of times when you're playing for Ireland, you're with like-minded people. So yeah, it's easy to get on with them when, your goals are the same and that's what you're aiming for. So yeah, always loved playing with Suzanne. Michelle Aspel I would have played with internationally and for club. So she would have played with Wildcats with me for years. And Aspel would admit herself, like, we were a real structured club, and you didn't go outside the lines. The play was written for you, and you followed suit. And Aspel came along with her own style and her own, I don't know, flair for the game. She wouldn't have been a very structured player, but by God, she could play and she could score no matter what you want to just give her the ball. She could score. So it's kind of hard to mark then when you had, the likes of Trish and myself inside who could play, and then you have guards outside, and Katrina, like Michelle, they could shoot the ball, and then you've Aspel can drive, shoot, do everything you want. But yeah, it's good to see, like, because for years we would have thought there's one way of playing and we had to play a certain way, and Michelle's game is a whole different style to any of the Wildcats we're used to. But we would be great friends even to today. Like all those girls that you named, played with them and be friends with them still. Fahia didn't really get to play with an awful lot, but like absolutely loved watching her play. When I was finished playing, she was going to the States at the time, and then when she came back, she would be one of the players I would really enjoy watching. Her skill or her vision is something always I would admire. Her passing skills and her vision is superb. And Susan Moran, I would have been the senior on the Irish senior women's team at the time when she was the baby coming along. So kind of like to think I mothered her for a little while before she went off to the States and made a huge career for herself. But again, like all these girls are great personalities on and off the court. great fun to be around. But once you put your foot over those sidelines and you're on the court, the most competitive girls you can meet, like, you know. So again, I think like-minded people, and we all always get on great.
Mm. Out of all the players you've played with, against, coached against, or even just watched, what are the common characteristics you see of the top players? Is there just something that you say, oh God, that's kind of in everyone? Is there just that just distinct trait that you see, or is there a lot of variables there?
Everyone has their own attributes. But I do think the one thing is the competitive nature of it. Like, you need that competitive nature, you know, inbuilt in you. I think all of those players have it, and an awful lot with. I'm involved with the Irish senior women's team at the moment, and great to be around. Like, when you see them, but like, they're on the court killing each other, and then you could be off the court playing a game of 30 seconds or whatever, and they want to win. So you want to win, whether it's, you know, whether it's dodgeball, whether it's basketball, or whether it's a game of cards. Everyone wants to win. And I do think that competitive nature, you know, a lot of people think they have it until you see the top people at it, then you realize. Like, you can imagine Lindsay Peach. Lindsay would want to kill you in anything just to win. So I do think competitive nature is a great attribute that the top players all have, and would have seen it really now during COVID when we were all locked down. Senior women's team, you know, had not seen a ball for a while, or they were in a gym on their own. So they'd no teammates to be around. And the second all our training was back in the arena at the time, the second we got back to training and things were opened up a little bit, just for the elite level, oh my God, it was just a pleasure to be around. And like, there was times we had to blow the whistle and just stop it, or we'd have 5 bodies on the floor, like, you know. But it's like that. They want to kill each other just to win. In a good way. I don't mean like that, like in a really good way, but it's lovely to watch that kind of, and I love being around that, because I'm the same. Like, whether it's, you know, anything you're doing, I want to win.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that answer. That hasn't come up yet. I've kind of nearly made it like a mandatory question for every coaching episode, but I like that answer. During your career, or even when you started coaching, what was the best advice you got from a coach?
Like, my very first coach was a female, and that's why, you know, anything like this, I don't really like doing interviews and all that kind of stuff. I know I could talk for Ireland, which probably is, you know, I'm not a big social media or that kind of thing. But when it comes to women in sport, you know, if anyone pulls that card, I'll say, yeah, I'll put my hand up, I'll do that, which you did. So when it comes to encouraging women to be in sport, I do think, you know, it's a huge thing that I am involved, and I would love other people to be involved, because my very first coach was a female, Evelyn Hearn. She was my first school coach. But like, I do think that her advice all the time was the small things. Like, everything was, look after the small things, the big things will look after themselves, you know. But she would have been huge on like little things like footwork. We'd spend hours on footwork, and, you know, nowadays you'd never get away with the kids would be bored, they'd be gone home long time. But I do think, because we believed in her and she was so good to us, but really, really tough on us, really tough. But like, her advice always would have been like to keep working on the little things. And, you know, that's the one thing I would always harp on about, is the little things. You know, that's the difference between a game, and coaches say it all the time. Like, you know, like, we'd win at the weekend and it's 1 point win. That 1 point is the little things that you're working on, you know. So, but like, it's very hard to teach players that, because they want to do the big things first, or, you know, everyone wants to score a 3 before they can jump stop, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see the video of I don't know if I put it up on the page, but it was this team in America, and just the point guards from each team would shoot a 3, go back up to the court, shoot a 3, go back up to the court, shoot a 3, and everyone was just standing there, and everyone watching was just like, this is ridiculous. It's like that Steph Curry effect, as they say.
Yeah. But it is. And like, I have a 13-year-old who doesn't even play basketball. He just plays it on, Dara plays it on his Xbox all the time. But he knows every player in the NBA. He knows, and when he comes in to watch his sisters playing, he'll go out and throw a step back. That's all he wants to do, is a Steph Curry step back. And it's like, like you can't do a layup, like, and he can't. He doesn't know how to do a layup. He knows to do a
Brilliant.
Steph Curry step back, and that's what he'll tell you because he's watching it on 2K NBA 2K, like on an Xbox.
Brilliant. And out of interest then, speaking of kind of coaching kids and skills, what would be the most underrated or overlooked skill at the moment? Like we've even just mentioned there, kids just watching NBA, coming in doing a step back,
Yeah.
but what should kids, if anyone is listening, try focus on, or coaches try instill in their team?
But for me, it's always been footwork. Like everyone, when I was playing, everyone would have said to me, "Oh God, you've great footwork." I know Sarah at the moment, there's been a couple of people commenting on, "Oh, look at her footwork." I'm like, it's jump stop, it's pivoting. They're simple, simple things, but nobody spends time on them. They don't spend the time teaching it because, again, I think, for kids, it's kind of boring. You can't spend 20 minutes jump stopping and teaching them how to pivot, unless you make it fun and incorporate it into a game and stuff like that. But it's a huge skill that's probably not enough time spent on.
Okay.
I think you see it with the seniors, senior women, even senior men. Sometimes, like, they come in, there's a defense there, they stop them, and they haven't got the footwork to get around them. So, or they've won pro hop or won Euro step, but you've got to have loads of them. Like, you've always got to have a counter move for that and another counter move, and that all comes from the basis of footwork.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember watching your under 20 game in Cork, and that was something that stood out to me was footwork. Who do you think is more like your game, Sarah or Kate? Who emulates you more?
Oh, well, neither of them probably want to be even related to me half the time, let alone say that I play like them. I don't know. Like, I think they're both completely different players, and like even their build is bit like Kate's body and build now as a 19-year-old is very like me as a 19-year-old. She's tall, lanky, kind of a little bit uncoordinated, but
Kate, in
really
case you're
athletic.
listening there.
Yeah, hugely athletic. But and then Sarah is real strong, and me near the end of my career would be, as I got older, I was way more physical and way more stronger than I was. So they both have attributes, but I mean, I've been coaching them since they're 4 and 5, so you have to pick up some of it. Like, but look, they're their own players and they're doing great, the two of them, and I couldn't be prouder of them. Like, so.
Brilliant. At what point in your playing career did you realise that you wanted to coach, or was it kind of just a bit of an accident? You just got roped into it?
Yeah, it's like everything when it comes to coaching. Somebody pulls you in the door to say, help these kids. When we were growing up with Wildcats, every player always took an underage team. So I would have just started taking like the under 12s when I was involved with the senior team. And then I went to college. I did sport and recreation. So part of that was coaching. So I would have done 4 years or 3 years in college doing coaching. And then I suppose when I was playing myself, for a while, it's very hard to commit to the time and stuff like that. So I probably went away from it for a while. And then obviously went off, had a family. And once your playing days are over, there's only two options. And, if you love the game and you want to stay involved, you either go referee or you go coaching. And definitely wouldn't make a good referee. So I wouldn't be calling. There'd be no, as the senior women will tell you, sometimes I don't blow the whistle unless there's blood. So no blood, no foul. So I wouldn't make a good referee. So I'd probably make a better coach. So
and do you draw on your playing experience much when you coach? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I probably have two answers. Like, what, obviously, and I've said this to the senior women, like, and to the Wildcats, is like most experiences they're going through, I've probably been there, done that, wore the t-shirt at some time. So yeah, I can understand where they're coming from. But game's a lot different now, and the younger people growing up now wouldn't take probably the abuse that we took when we were younger. So yeah, things that might have worked 20 years ago definitely wouldn't work with the kids today. Like, so yeah, there's two. Definitely playing does help you, gives you an understanding of what's going on and what's going on in the player's mind. But players today are definitely a lot different than players 20 years ago. We had nothing else in our life. It was literally basketball and school. That was it. Like, you know.
Yeah, it's very different now. I had a great question in. What are the differences / similarities between the Irish senior teams from a coaching and playing standpoint, from your playing experience and now being involved with the current squad?
I think, yeah, it's difficult. Is I think that when you're playing, you only see things as a player, like, and sometimes the coach is telling you something and you're going, oh, But then when you're over on the coaching side of it, they're going, why isn't that player listening, and why aren't they doing this? Like, so yeah, I think players, you're very engrossed in your own playing, and you're like, don't get me wrong, you're 100% behind your team, whereas the coach, it's very hard because you're trying to balance 12 people's playing, their ideas of playing. And the one thing is really hard about senior women is you have 12 players that are the best players in their club team. So they are the best players getting 40 minutes in their club team. And then you bring them to senior women and you're saying, I want 2 rebounds off you. That's all. Like, go in there and do it. Or, 2 box out, 2 rebounds, and you've done a job for us. It's very hard to understand that when you're coming from 40 minutes and being the top player on your so do feel for players in that situation, but do think to make the team better. And once you buy into that concept that this is all for the good of the team, then you have a much better squad together. Like, so once you have players that are going to accept a role or accept something, and I think that's what we were really good at years ago, because we had no choice. It was like, it's your role, or get out the door, and we took it. Whereas, yeah, there's a lot more communicating and talking about your playing time now than there would have been accepted a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. That you're a pro, because that was actually going to be my next question, was how do you approach that as a player or as a coach in terms of bringing the best players together on one team and kind of explaining, look, this is a role, and obviously, certain players will accept that, that's totally fine, but how do you approach that with players that might not be used to kind of taking those 2 rebounds and sitting back on the bench, or just making a free throw, or coming on to make a screen?
Yeah, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Every single player wants to play. They wouldn't be involved in the game if they didn't. And then there's very few, especially at the top level, that are happy to play less than 30 minutes or 20 minutes. That they all want that, or they all want to be starting 5. But I just think it's communication. It's just, keep talking to them and keep telling them, or giving them stuff to work on. Well, look, you've had 5 minutes. If you want to up that to 10 minutes, here's another job you've got to do. But one step at a time, like, especially for younger ones coming through, to accept that. But like the likes of it actually happened this year would nearly be the reverse, was the younger ones were coming through with huge experience because they've had great experience coming up the whole way, and they're really gelled at it as a team. And sometimes you were talking to senior players who are some of the best players in Ireland in the Irish League, and then you're asking them to take a lesser role. It's not easy, and it's not easy as a coach. And at club level, at senior level, they're hard conversations to have with players, but ignoring the conversation is probably the wrong thing to do, like, and think, oh, they'll sort themselves out, and if they want to play, go off and fix it yourself. It's a conversation to be open about it, and at least they know they're not sitting there not knowing either, so
Yeah,
but it
that's a
is
great
tough.
point. Mm-hmm. How do you think it's important for coaches to have played the game? And I don't mean play the top level, but to just have some playing experience. Do you think that's important, or can anybody come in and coach?
I don't think necessarily you have to play. Like, I think obviously playing gives you a good in-depth knowledge of all the skills and stuff, and being able to demonstrate the skills, especially with the younger, if you're coaching younger ones, it is a good idea that you can demonstrate the skills. If you haven't played and you can't do them properly, I would tell every coach, don't demonstrate them, then go get some kids that can demonstrate them correctly. Because, for kids that would be a visual learner, if you're teaching, or you think you're doing it right and you're not, they're watching that and they're going to replicate it. So I do think, it's very good for younger players if you have that, you can demonstrate, but not necessarily. I think, you can learn an awful lot, and
Mm-hmm.
there's an awful lot of coaches out there that just learn the game and learn different things. But I suppose when you're playing, obviously it helps, I
Yeah.
mean, you can see the American structure definitely seems to be the players all make assistant coaches, and their whole structure feeds that, whereas I had finished playing and I wanted to go coaching, and they sent me back on an introductory level coaching course, and I'm like, it's like, here's a ball and here's a basket, and I was going, oh, now come on. But there's no feeder system like that in the Irish. Don't think we buy into that enough, like, of what your level playing has taught you should seriously give you a level 1 or a level 2 of some level of coaching, because for players that, and it's a pity, because we have an awful lot of kids in our club that would have played National League or Super League, but they're not willing to spend a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday going on a coaching course teaching them the basics of stuff. But that's just, that's the paperwork, and sometimes it's literally down to paperwork.
Yeah, that's true. Out of interest, with the Irish senior women's training, I'm always interested in, or even Super League, how often do you practice the basics? Is there a lot of focus put on it? Is it just something that's involved in the drills anyway? Do you spend much time on skills or fundamentals at all?
I think like, there's an awful lot of video analysis done, so you're breaking down stuff, and players can see stuff that they have to work on. So like with James, with senior women, Yanis would be in charge of the guards, and I have the posts. So we definitely get time at practice to break down the individual guards, the individual posts. And yes, we can give them stuff to work on if they look for it 100%. A lot of them will come to you and say, during the summer, can you give me something to work on? Or we'll give them clips from training and see what you can do better and go work on that for the next time. So not a whole lot at training times, but we would do it and go off and do it on, back there, and we'll help you. Or we did an awful lot of it on Zoom last year. So they would come back and video themselves working on the skill, so we can watch it and then give them feedback off it. But during training time is so limited that, yeah, you're trying to do an awful lot of team stuff at that times. But James, always, there is a specific time of training allocated for that. So yeah, yes is the answer. A long-winded way of saying it.
No, that's interesting. And I know you would have done a lot. I think that home court app, I think that came up a couple of times. I think
it was great. Like, all the underage teams used it as well. And, just lockdown was so hard for, any athlete that's used to training all the time, which is so hard. So it was great that they gave that app for free for, how many months, I'm not sure. But, and then James could sit in Kerry, I can sit in Waterford, and we can see what they're doing and keep a track on what they're doing. And I think it gave that competitive nature again to the players, because, if they were seeing, say, Mimi Clark was shooting 200 3-pointers, well, then I'm going to shoot 300 3-pointers, so it's a good way to encourage them as well. Like, it was just a hard time for everybody, but they did really well with it.
Yeah, that's a great point about looking up to the kind of role models and the other players. What are they doing? And that's what I love about the takeovers I run. It's when a player shows something, I know there's probably, well, if there's could be 50 kids watching it, 5 will try it and 1 will master it. And that, I always think looking up to others is a really, positive way and positive influence, but affirmation of, you can't just go up by yourself up to the gym with, as Mimi Clark was doing. You don't need to be in your team, or you don't need to hire somebody. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do. You can do that, but there's nothing just beats going out with a basketball to a hoop and just going by yourself.
Yeah, look, I spent the whole of lockdown, we were lucky, our gym is within 5k of our house, and I had the keys of the gym, so we weren't breaking any rules, but we were in there every single day because there was absolutely nothing else to do. And like, the girls are, Kate still really plays guard, but Sarah would have been playing an awful lot of guard stuff. But like, she's 6'1", and I started doing post moves and post work with her. But all of that was on her own in the gym, working on footwork and working on shooting, and like, it definitely, you can see the benefit of it now. And I know Mimi Clark is somebody I used because, her home court time was phenomenal, like the hours she was spending in a gym because of lockdown. So everything's back to normal now, so it's a little bit harder. But for every kid, that's what I did. I was 12, I had a basket out the front on the light pole outside the house. My father attached it. And I used to be out there for hours and hours and hours, just shooting around and playing on my own, so, and like the one thing that really struck with COVID this year was the lack of facilities. Like, I mean, we were blessed. We had keys to the gym. There were very, very few people who were in that situation. So, the lack of outdoor courts, and they were trying to get themselves, but like wherever there's a will, there's a way, and they found it, so.
Yeah, exactly. Out of interest then for yourself, Gillian, as a coach, how do you upskill and how do you improve? Is there any specific tips that you could give people outside of a coaching course, like a traditional Basketball Ireland coaching course? Is there anything in particular that you've found useful over the years that you'd recommend to other coaches doing?
Look, there's like, you can go online and actually find any training session, any drill, you can do everything you want online if you want to. But I think being involved with other coaches, and the likes of us now go with the senior women, and Yanis has now come on board, so it's a new voice and a new, all of that kind of stuff does upskill you. I think of any other way, other than like this, the Basketball Ireland coaching courses that they ran. Like, I was doing my level 2, you different speakers coming in all the time from all over Ireland, as well as international or American coaches, and you get different perspectives on everything. All of those are really good, and yeah, definitely would encourage them to do them. But they used to do coaching courses, conferences, and I'm sure they'll come back now. But I can see Basketball Ireland started the help side, so all of those stuff are good. But for me, like when I was involved with women in sports, like I had offered to say, like, any female out there wanted to come watch a session. And I know Puff Summers says to me, I'll come down, Julie, and like, and watch a session. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to encourage a few females to come watch a session. But yeah, like I'm sure most coaches out there would be very open to, if you asked, can I come watch a session, or can I come take some notes, or, just being there is going to progress your game as a coach.
This is a great question, actually. Are the pros that come into Ireland, are they benefiting younger generations and making players better? What would be your take on that? Again, this is going off on court, off court. We just spoke about it, the importance of watching players and watching, talented players every week. And I think Sean Flood mentioned how when Puff came here, that's who he kind of helped fall in love with basketball, was watching him playing. Are the pros benefiting the game? What would be your take on it?
Yeah, I think definitely they do. I think they raise the standard of the game. I think that for the players playing against them week in, week out, you get to defend some of the best guards in the country. That's definitely, there's so many pros to it, like, and great for them to get experience of different cultures, different, teammates coming in. And plus, most of them have come from a very professional setup, and sometimes they find it hard. Like, these kids are at school or at college or at jobs all day long, and then they come in to train, whereas they're not used to that kind of setup. Like, so it does benefit both sides. The only thing is that, with 2 of them on the court at the time, you're limited to 3 Irish players on the court, whereas the more Irish players, more playing time you get, the better you're getting. So, there's pros and cons to it, but even for kids to go watch them play, and, it hypes the game, and it gives an interest to all the women's game anyway. Like, some of the Americans are some of the best in the league, but everyone still roots for the Irish player, don't they? Really, at the end of the day, they want, well, I do anyway, I want the Irish players to be top scorers or doing well. Like, but yeah, it adds to the game. I think if they lost it out of the game, it wouldn't be good.
Yeah. Do you think the game has progressed much since you've played, and if so, how?
Yeah, it's like, sometimes I look at the league and I go, oh my God, like, we're going backwards. And other times I look at the league and I go, oh my God, we're flying. So I don't know. It depends on the day. Like, I think there's an awful lot of consistency in the league in general, especially Wildcats or any of the league. They're winning against the best teams, and then they could be losing against a bottom team. Like, it's just craziness. Like, do think years ago, some of the leagues were much smaller. For years there, we struggled to get, 10 teams in leagues. Um, so I think, yes, it's progressed. And look, we've Division One, Division Two this year, our Super League, sorry, and Division One. So we've loads of teams playing. We have loads of younger people. Like, it's definitely like one of the top numbers of female and male players playing in it. So it's definitely progressed. Um, I don't really know to have a specific answer on that one now, because it's hard to say, oh yeah, everything was great. And then you watch a game that I was playing in 20 years ago and you go, oh my God, that standard was horrendous. But when you were playing in it, you thought it was absolutely brilliant,
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. Is there any particular direction you'd like to see the game go and the league go at this point?
I'd just like to see it growing and growing. Like, I really would. I think, you'd love to see every team kind of having 12, 15 Super League players on it. I'd love to see more younger players coming through. It's like you see so much underage, they're winning under 16 All Irelands, they're winning under 18 All Irelands, under 20s, and then you don't see them stepping up to the Super League. And I think it's an awful pity, like, because there's only one or now look, years ago there was always one or two drifts in every year, but yeah, I don't see we're having the really good ones step up, but there's an awful lot of them lost in the process, and that is the one thing I would love the league to see more of them coming through to the Super League.
Okay. Is there a particular way that we can facilitate that? Is there not a guaranteed 100% solution, but what would be a
Yeah,
suggestion to help that? Do you even know of a suggestion?
like, I mean, I get these emails all the time from Basketball Ireland, from Sport Ireland, trying to encourage women to stay in sport. And there's a dropout, a huge dropout rate. Now, I think it's across every sport. It's not just
Yeah.
specifically basketball, but I think a lot of the underage rules really allow for, everyone must get a quarter, everyone must have two quarter, or you can't full court press. All the underage rules help players get playing time. And then we come to 16 and there's no rules, and coaches are only going to play the best and try win the games. And but look, I think that's life too. Like, you can't be just, you can't facilitate them all the time and say it's your turn, because that doesn't happen in real life. But if you want them to keep playing, they have to get court time. So it's a catch-22 situation. Like, it's a hard one to answer or a hard one to get right. But I do think the more playing time they get, the more encouraging they are to keep playing. But then if you want to win, they can't get the playing time. So,
It's completely, it's complete catch-22, but I would definitely be in agreement in terms of, you know, this whole don't keep score, everyone gets a
oh,
medal. I don't agree with that. Like, I'm all for participation and I don't want people to drop out of sport, but not everyone gets a medal. Like, I don't particularly love that idea or that
and if you asked
concept.
me that question 10 years ago, I would have said, absolutely not. Like, but as I'm getting older and as I'm seeing so many kids drop out, like, I'm back at under 12 now going, good girl, you're doing great. Whereas if Kate and Sarah tell you when I coached them 10 years ago, I was probably going, that's not good enough. Come on. So I do think as you get older, you kind of see the benefits to both, like, to
Yeah.
try to keep participation up.
Yeah.
Like, more participation we keep up, the more we feed through the system. But yeah, I'm, like,
Well, I can, yeah, we've the same
I'm not
opinion
in
on that,
agreement of
but
giving everyone a gold medal either.
yeah, I think
Definitely not.
we're both saying the same thing here. It's just, but we both understand there's
Yeah.
two sides to every story, and look, it is what it is. But out of interest, as you mentioned it there again, you're a pro, Jillian. This is my next question. How have you evolved as a coach over the years?
Oh, I would say I've completely changed. I think I was probably a bit of a lunatic back a while ago, but I was probably coached by a few lunatics, but yeah, I would have been very much more vocal than I am now. Like, because
Yeah,
sometimes when you sit back and you look at other coaches coaching, you go, what benefit is that roaring at them? Like, now don't get me wrong, because I'm well capable of roaring, and sometimes I do a lot of roaring. But even I was asked a question there a while ago, what's the biggest attribute for a coach? And I was like, patience. And like, hands up, I don't have the most. normally use all my patience in work every day. So by the time I'm finished, it's hard to get by. But I think it is a huge attribute to coaching. And, you can, I don't know, again, there's just no perfect answer to any question. Like there really
Yeah.
isn't. But yeah, it's hard. Every question you're asking are too hard. And there's no straight answer, But I do think I've completely changed. I don't think there's an awful lot of people might agree with you, but I know myself, it's a lot different than, it's like learning to control that and keep them playing, especially underage. Senior levels are different. They have to be able to take constructive criticism, let's put it like that. They're seniors, that's what they're there for. But it's a different coaching approach to underage than I would have had 10 years ago.
There's a great picture of you, Kate, and Abby Flynn at the Cup Finals. I think it was 2020.
Yeah, just before lockdown.
Just before lockdown, yeah. Deirdre McCarthy, big shout out to her, wanted to know, what were you saying to the girls in the picture out of interest? Do you remember?
Deirdre McCarthy knows me well enough now to know I can't remember what happened yesterday. Even when you're asking me how many leagues and titles, I had to ring Kieran Shanahan one time and say, many leagues did I win? Because he has all of that recorded. Like, I have no memory for what happened 20 years ago. But I know the film or the picture because I have my hand on my face. So I'm probably going, what happened? But yeah, I look happy and the two girls look happy. And I know Kate was injured at the time and she'd her arm around me because I was linking her and Abby had her. But we won, which was the most important. But I actually have no idea what I'm saying to them.
No worries. It was just out of interest. We had an anonymous submission here. You might guess who it is, but what is it like to be assistant coach to the outstanding head coach at Wildcats? I don't know who sent that in now.
Tommy or someone else robbed his phone and put it in on his phone. Or it could be Carl Bride. They're, they just want the glory of saying, wow, Tommy's brilliant. Like, is that it? So easy.
It was, I won't say who it was, but it was someone you mentioned there.
So it wasn't Tommy, it was Carl Bride.
No, it was absolutely Tommy. I'm just throwing him out here under the bus.
Throw him under the bus.
Out of interest, I think it's a conversation that's kind of come up a lot on the podcast. Underage teams in a difficult predicament, I suppose, representing your country. You have to pay to play. You've seen a lot of the sides of it. You've been a player, you've been a coach, you've been a parent. Again, solution is not the word I'm looking for, but what would be your whole take on the difficult situation that is there at the moment?
Like, I think it's so wrong, like, to have to play for your country. So wrong. I think, like, our national governing body needs to do an awful lot more where funding is concerned. I've definitely seen it as a parent, because I have two kids after playing under 16, under 18, and now playing under 20 for Ireland. And it's a huge expense to have, like, let alone the Europeans, like $3,000 for them to go at the end of the day per child. And then I have two children, but like the Maguires have had 3 kids going through it. Hazel and Dana Finn have, there's a lot of parents out there have funded international programs, and funding them for 2 and 3 kids is not easy. And I don't think it's right, because I think we're missing out on some kids ever representing their country once this money is involved. And what really kills me is, years ago when I was playing, we never paid anything to play for Ireland. We got free boots, free tracksuits. Adidas sponsored the Irish senior women's team at the time. So it's very hard to think that 20 years on and we're in a worse situation than we were years ago. And it's not right, but if the money is not there, it's down to the parents to fund it. I think, as a sport, we're extremely lucky that we have an awful lot of parents willing to fund it, or willing to give their daughters and sons a chance to play for Ireland. It doesn't make it right. I know there's a lot of people will hopefully be trying to change that coming, there's talks about fundraising and stuff going on, but I do think Basketball Ireland need to have a good look at it. I think, like, the senior women have a sponsor, and I don't see why all underage teams should have a serious sponsor. I think it's very unfair for parents to fund it, and it's very hard on them. But you can imagine a kid that doesn't have this funding, who could be the best player in Ireland, and they're not going to get that opportunity, because it's not just the lump sum at the end when they're going to Europeans, it's every weekend of training. So you can't make it if you had your £2,000 to go to the Europeans, because for a year up to that, you have to go to every training session, which costs money. And then that's not let alone your training expenses to get there, your train, your food, it's really expensive. And it's a hard pill to take, but then you see your daughter or your son putting on the Irish jersey and you're crying and your heart is like melting and you're going, it's only £2,000. A couple of grand will find that somewhere. But I just worry about the kids that can't afford it. And like personally, like we don't have lavish lifestyles, myself and my husband, so our money goes into sport. So look, ours are blessed to have that opportunity, but it's definitely not easy.
Yeah, definitely. The Irish anthem has come up a lot in the podcast. It's very difficult to explain, but from your perspective as a player, captain, parent, coach, what's your proudest moment or memory with the anthem? And I don't think you can describe it but if you could maybe try, what is it like?
Like every single time the anthem plays, and I know Katrina White was slagging me this year, we were over in Cyprus playing with senior women, and the camera came right up in my face and you can see the tear coming down my eye, like, and I was coaching, I wasn't playing, but it always hits my heart. Like my very first ever time playing for the Irish under-15 team, I was in Neptune Stadium and we were walking around Neptune Stadium. The Ireland and England team took a full march around the stadium and then stopped and the anthem started, and I started crying like a 2-year-old. Like, I mean, tears flooding down my face. I was so proud and so excited, and I don't think it's changed much over the years. Like, it's just something that you're really proud. And when I see Kate and Sarah out there, I'm the same. I'm emotional. My own time playing, definitely under 15, and then National Basketball Arena, we played England in the 4 countries and we won. And again, I remember just the tears flowing down my face while I'm singing it, wiping it away, getting out and playing. And another memory really good, the Irish under-18 team when Tommy was coaching, Claire Melia and Dana and all of those, like the atmosphere in the arena back then was absolutely electric when the national anthem was playing. But it is a real proud feeling to put on a green jersey. And until you've done it, I don't know if you ever experience it or as you said, explain the feeling, because it is like we all have great, heritage of like Ireland and that kind of like, and especially when you're playing England, it's like kill them and all that. But then when you've a green jersey on you and you've got to the top of your career in playing and representing Ireland, it's a hugely proud moment.
Yeah, I've never played for Ireland, never will. But I remember the Eurobasket game just gone with the men and being in the arena. I was actually standing on my seat videoing the crowd and I just got these goosebumps and I was like, thank God I won't play for Ireland because I'll be in bits on the court and my coach won't play me because I'll be too emotional.
No, it's mad. Like, it probably gives you more of a,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And like the Irish crowd are always like the best supporters. Like, I've been at the Euros underage for the last few years, and it's great to be on the other side and with all the parents and you're screaming at, like, there's just so many supporters go for all those Irish underage programs at the Euros and everywhere. I mean, you could see with the men traveling, you could see the big Irish contingent in the background and the flags, and we're great supporters of Ireland as well as playing for it. But it's great.
If you could go back in time and relive any moment in your career, what would it be?
Oh God, definitely for Ireland, playing the 4 countries in the National Basketball Arena, like packed to capacity, roaring Ireland on. I just remember that. I would love to go back out in the court. I'd like to go back on the court and be able to run around. That would do me at this stage now. But probably that. And then for Wildcats, definitely a cup win, like probably our first ever cup win. We were probably, I think, 6 times losing cups or 5 times in a row losing cups, and then first ever cup win was like just electric kind of feeling, running around the arena again.
Our sponsor for the series is Chin-Up Goggles. James reached out and told me you use Chin-Up Goggles. What do you use them for at training, and what kind of benefits have you seen with the goggles?
I was using them with I use them with all the young kids because what do they want to do? Just look at the ball when they're dribbling it, so their head is down and they're dribbling the ball. And when you put them on, they completely block so they're like this, and they block them, they can't see the ball. So it encourages them to keep their head up. So yeah, I bought them, God, a few years ago off of him, and use them with all our academies. We put them on, and the kids love them. So whereas
They're
if
asking
some
for
of,
the goggles nearly.
yeah, so the older ones, when you put them on, they feel like, God, I can't wear these, I'm not. But I think it's good for every now and again to even put them on the seniors and have them going around, because it improves your vision, like, so, even your perception of where the ball is, you can't look at it. But kids, definitely, they have to learn to stop, to learn to dribble without looking at the ball. So it does help them.
Mm-hmm. Overall, through your coaching and playing career, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from sport?
I think probably one of the biggest lessons that you learn when you're playing as well, especially, is there's always more in the tank. So you feel like, you're given 100%, and there's nothing left in you. And then you can go the next level and the next level. So like training for us years and years ago would have been extremely physical, and we would have done an awful lot of strength and conditioning. And, you think you're on your legs, and then coaching or the coach will be roaring at you, give me 10 more. And then you got the 10, give me 2 more. So now you've realized, oh God, I can do 12 when I thought I could only do 10. So that kind of pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to get more and more and more, probably one of the best lessons you can learn, like, because naturally, I think we're kind of, your brain will say, oh, I can do so much. But unless you have a coach to push you and push you and push you, and then when you learn that, it's ingrained in yourself to push you, but if nobody's taught you that from the start, it's very hard to think you can push yourself. Like, I'll give you an example of, like, we run a drill, say, I think it's 1 minute, and you have to do 7 full court sprints, and like, you ask them to do it, they go, oh, it's not possible. I've only done it and I get 5, or only done it and I get 6, or only, and then they see someone doing it, or you have Abby Flynn who can go boom, 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 like, and you're there. So I was like, yeah, she did it. And next, suddenly people realize, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Or you give them a target shooting drill, 1 minute, and you have to make, 5, 2 in a row in 5 spots. You've got 1 minute, and they don't get it the first time or the second time or the third time, until they actually see someone getting it, or they get it themselves. There's always more in the tank. Whereas, it's a belief in that, and that's definitely a lesson that sport teaches you, and you use it in all aspects of life, I would say, onwards.
Overall, purpose is a very deep word, but why do you coach? Why do you get involved in the game? What's the kind of thrill for you?
I just absolutely love basketball. I have a love of basketball and an obsession with basketball since I was 12 years old. And unfortunately, I don't have the knees or the fitness level to keep playing, because if I did, I'd be still out there playing. My love absolutely was playing. And as I said to you earlier, like, you can't play, your options are to referee, table, or coach. And I would prefer be coaching and impact the game, and pass the game on to the next generation, which is just a huge I don't know, sense of accomplishment when when you've taught kids, like the under-20s, Wildcats under-20s this year, like, just filled my heart with pride, because a lot of those kids I've had since they're really they're really young. They started with Kate and Sarah when they were 7 maybe, and you've seen them go through, or you're trying to teach them something, and then they do it for the first time, like Bammy, one of the kids that would play under 20, like, I coach her now, and like, she is the most fun you could ever have as a player. Bammy is it, like, she's cracked. But like, I was for years and years saying, Bammy, your left hand, and she'd keep going up with her right hand on the left hand side and getting checked. I'm like, use your left hand. And one day in a game, like, she used it. I did it, Jillian, and like screams over at me, like, I was there kind of going, like, funny, but yet you're kind of going, yes, she did do it, so yeah. I mean, coaching definitely gives you that level of, well, they've picked up on something, you've passed the skill on to them, and they're having fun doing it. Like, like, I always felt like I had fun when I was playing. I loved playing so much, and I'd love to pass that on to the next generation, to have a love of the sport that I do. I think when you're in the basketball generation, like, and you're in, basketball family, let's put it, like, you can see that everyone has a love of the sport. That's why they're all involved. And it is pure love of the sport. It's nothing to do with, I want to be a coach and I want to win the medal. Like, it's nothing to do like that for me. It's just the love of the game and you just want to be around it.
How do you measure success then as a coach? Obviously, you're in different age groups, different standards, but when you're looking at a season, how would you kind of define the success of a season?
Yeah, probably would be really two different answers again when you're talking about the underage compared to seniors. Like, I mean, it's a successful season for Wildcats so far. We're third. Obviously, we'd prefer be first or second in the league, but we have progressed a bit in the last few years, and we're up the top four playoffs this year, so that's definitely success. Whereas a perfect example is the last time with Bammy there, like she put the ball in with her left hand. That's success, whether you won the game or not. So yeah, it's not always about winning, but definitely the older you get, that's the aim, obviously, is to win. But I still want to win at every level, whether it's under 12 or not. But you have to be realistic. It's not always possible, but yeah.
I'm going to move on to sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Question 1, what is your favourite quote?
So the quote was always associated with Wildcats from the very start when I was 12 is the will to win is common, the will to prepare to win is rare. So
love that.
Everyone wants to win, but the will to prepare to win is rare, so everyone can say they want to win. We had that up on every gym door in the, every piece of headed paper with Wildcats. That was what was written on the end of it. Brilliant. So it's our motto, like.
Very good. Question 2, what's the best sporting event you've been to? And you can pick one as a fan and one as a player/coach.
I went to the Olympics when they were on in London.
Unreal.
Yeah, unreal. Like, again, we went, Rachel van der Voort got us tickets to go on the Friday night to go see GB play France. We were like up in the like nosebleed seats. And the minute the game was over, which was a great game, especially to go see Rachel play when you knew somebody. And so we literally went with one ticket. That's all we had. And then US were playing Czech Republic afterwards. And everyone left the stadium. Like, all the English got up and left. GB were over, and we got the whole way down. I was sitting right behind Gino for the next game. Unreal. My friends were texting me going, "Is that you?" And I was like, "I'm sitting behind Gino. He's literally like arm's distance away from me." So we got right down there. The whole place was empty, and nobody could get tickets to these games, because they were sold for the 2 games. But all the English left after the English game. There was hardly anyone left, so we were all able to move right down. So that was definitely, but even when we were over there, then we got tickets to the there was uproar at the time. I don't know if you remember, like, all the seats were empty because they were all corporate tickets, and the corporate sponsors weren't using their tickets then. So when it was on the telly, they were all looking and all these seats were empty. So then there was a glut of tickets came on the market on the Saturday when we were over there. So we got tickets to the athletics. I got to see Bolt, Jessica Ennis on the Super Saturday. The Sunday, then we got tickets. We went to watch the marathon, and we got to see Box and Katie Taylor. So it's one weekend.
That is the dream weekend.
Absolutely in my element for the whole weekend. And my kids never leave me forget that I left them at home. It was just myself and my husband went off for the weekend. And just the best weekend. Like, I mean, my God, we got so much sport in. And especially the fact, I think we went with one basketball ticket, thinking we weren't going to see anything else other than the marathon. And then just got Super Saturday. It was just amazing to be in that atmosphere and see. And we had brilliant seats, like, because they were all corporate seats. That's definitely my sporting memory. Like, and I don't know, unless I get to another Olympics, I don't think it'll surpass. Playing, my best memory would be the World Student Games. Like, again, like a mini Olympics, and you're in with all these athletes, like famous people, as you're walking around, like, looking at them. But walking in and being the open and closing ceremony of World Student Games was like a mini Olympics. And again, there was a few tears there as well, like,
Yeah, I'd say so. Question 3, what's been the biggest setback or challenge during your career, and how did you react to it?
I think the biggest setbacks normally come from injury. Like, so when you're used to playing all the time or you want to be on the floor all the time, like injury is just such a setback, and can be on the body, but equally on the mind when you can't play. And I can see that with my own two, like when they're injured, it's just like, oh God, the stress levels in the house go to through the roof, So I think that's definitely the biggest challenge I've ever come across, and probably lucky, people have come across probably way worse, but injury definitely is, and it's just time. You have to give your body time to heal and recover, which is not easy either, because
Yeah.
you want to just take it up and keep playing.
On the flip side then, what's been your biggest achievement on or off the court?
My biggest achievement, I suppose having my children is probably my biggest achievement, but definitely takes over from your sporting career when you go start your own family. But sporting wise, it's just all our cups and leagues and everything we achieved with our club, and doing it all with some of your best friends is just phenomenal.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
I asked this question before now, and I couldn't even remember. I'll probably give you a different answer now. But I do think I'm only 5'10" probably, but years ago I was like seen as really tall, so I was always just stuck in the post. Then when you went to abroad to play your, Euros, you weren't tall. You were suddenly in against 3 girls, so you had to adapt and learn to play outside because coach would just go get the ball. And next time out on a 3-point line, not knowing what the hell to do with it. So
Yeah.
probably 18, and I would have been very much like that with the girls, is learn every position. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one. And I was definitely pigeonholed into a post position. I could play the 4 or the 5. Really wasn't a 1 or a 2, or I couldn't shoot a 3-pointer. Could not shoot a 3. So like if I was back now, if I was playing now, I'm 18, like I wouldn't have the same career, because you need to add all aspects to the game.
That's a great point. Question 6, who would be your dream dinner guest and why? You can open up the table to a few people if you want.
I suppose in our house, if we could bring, like, one of my favorite players always to watch was Michael Jordan. Just obsessed with him, obsessed with the gear, obsessed with him. Like lockdown, when Jordan came on Netflix, it was like, oh my God, can the next episode come quick? So I would absolutely love him as a dinner guest.
What would you ask him out of interest? Is there just
I think I'd probably just sit there like that, looking at him going, tell me your whole life, but yeah, I mean, I loved the documentary, and when loved it, and I always followed the Bulls when I was a kid. That was the one thing I was just obsessed with. I mean, in the women's game for the last couple of years, I just love Breanna Stewart, love her, love everything about her. So I would like maybe her, if it's basketball conversation on the basketball you're bringing to the table, but I love her competitiveness, and she can do everything. Like, she can play out, she can play in, but probably Michael Jordan, but just for the woman, put a woman in there, it's Breanna Stewart.
Love it. That wouldn't be a bad 3v3 team now. The 3 is together.
Yeah. I was just sitting there looking in awe of the other 2.
A final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Oh, I don't read too many books now. It'd have to be, well, obviously at the moment, coming out of COVID, this chapter would have to be COVID chapter, or coming out of COVID and the next step. But yeah, I can't think of anything else to write.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. The COVID chapter.
Brilliant. Jillian, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. If there's any female coaches that want to reach out for advice for anything, where is the best place to find you?
As I said, I'm not great on social media, but I am on it. So if you message me on Instagram, I'll get on to you. Or you can email Waterford Wildcats.
A massive thank you to Jillian for joining me on the podcast today. I'll be sure to leave all of her social media links and interviews in the description box below if you'd like to hear more from her. If you are enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as it does help the show grow. Be sure to get in touch and let me know what coach you would like to hear from. A massive thank you to our sponsor, Chin Up Goggles, and as always, thank you for listening.